Hi, I'm Jackie Russell with OEKO-TEX, welcoming you to the Responsibility for Sustainability for Conscious Brands webinar. Thank you for joining us today. This is the first in a series of webinars that we're going to be doing about sustainability in the retail and textile industries. As you know, this is a topic that has been growing over the past few years and specifically over the past few months due to the global pandemic. So we have here today a number of industry experts who are going to share with you insights from their specific fields of expertise in the textile industry to talk about how sustainability is growing and how each of us in our own different ways can be a part of that growth and a part of the movement. So, and at the end of our webinar, please jot down your questions because we'll have time to answer your questions at the end, hopefully a few questions, and you should add them into the question box in your panel that you see on the webinar. So thank you so much again, and I'll bring on our first participant, Thimo Schwenzfeier from Neonyt. Thank you, welcome, Thimo.
Hi, Jackie. Welcome to everyone. Thanks for having me to OEKO-TEX. I'm really glad to be part of this exciting panel.
Oh, great. So can you introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about your organization?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Thimo. I'm the show director of Neonyt, sustainable fashion trade show in Berlin during Berlin Fashion Week until January next year. From summer on, part of Frankfurt Fashion Week. We just announced that. And Neonyt is part of Messe Frankfurt. Messe Frankfurt is one of the largest trade show organizers in the world. And in terms of the textile related shows, the largest trade show organizers. We are organizing more than 60 trade shows along the entire textile value chain in countries all over the world, like in the US, in Argentina, in China, in Russia, in France, in Germany, but also in Ethiopia or even South Africa. And so we have a good understanding of what kind of needs the textile and fashion industry has. And we have seen the trend of sustainability like 10, 12, maybe 15 years ago already. And we can say that in the meantime, this is not a trend anymore. It won't go away. And so this is a very crucial part of every single trade show we are organizing. And not only that it's a part of our trade show universe, and now it's also really with Neonyt, with the Sustainable Fashion Trade Show, it's really like mandatory to be focused on sustainability.
Yeah, right on. So you sound really passionate about this. Tell us, how did you get to where you are? How did you get here?
Yeah, I've joined Messe Frankfurt like more than nearly 7.5 years ago as a marketing and communications director for the textile field. And this was not my very first contact with sustainability, but it was a very intense contact. Before, I was operating, for example, outlet centers, price off centers. And this was the first time when I really got in contact with the idea of sustainability. I was working for communication, PR, and advertising agencies for clients such as Hugo Boss or Adidas or the Holy Group. So this was always like kind of a part of my journey. But when I joined Messe Frankfurt, I really firstly understood the idea of how sustainability is having a huge impact on the textile field. And then on a private note, since 5 years, I'm a very happy father of a lovely daughter. And when I saw my daughter for the very first time, it was really like, I don't want her to be in touch with textiles which could harm her. So I was getting into this from a more private point of view. And lucky me, I was in contact with a lot of great guys, such as people from OEKO-TEX, for example. And I understood the idea of OEKO-TEX 100, or now with the Made in Green initiative, even better. And so this was something which like kind of connected on both ways, the private one and the business one.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have that personal experience too, right? So thank you for sharing that. So tell us about what the latest legislation in the EU means for sustainability in the fashion industry. What are you seeing in terms of new standards of transparency and traceability? And kind of help us understand what these new regulations mean for brands around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that a lot of parts of the world are looking on the European Union and what's going on here. And there are some European laws defining new rules on mandatory both human and environmental due diligence in European Union-based companies and the global supply chain aiming at preventing and accounting for human rights abuses, for example, checking the supply chain in terms of like the direct suppliers, but now even more also the sub suppliers, because there have been a lot of problems in the past, mentioning, for example, 2013 Rana Plaza, the tragedy in Bangladesh, when a lot of textiles workers died. And this catastrophe marked a turning point in public awareness for, I would say, nearly all of us regarding the global supply chains. So there were some agreements, but they did not really result in major change. I think we all must admit, and we all can agree on. So there was a call for binding regulations on companies, and it started to increase to make companies liable for human rights as well as environmental protection in their supply chain. So most of the laws in the 27 European Union countries will be in effect of that by the end of 2021. And the idea is to trace the whole supply chain from the raw material to the garment in the shop. And the binding law would mean that they would need to put more effort into selecting suppliers and also into the internal processes, guaranteeing they would meet the requirements of these regulations. And so sustainable brands we are working with at our Neonyt trade show and also with our conferences and so on are already doing this a lot, and they would be, I think they are very well prepared. So this is a huge chance for the brands which are already have started in the field of sustainability or are going to start. And I would really highly try to ask all the brands working in the field of fashion and textiles that they should really aim for the change already. And on a larger scale, we can also see that as a part of the trade war situation between the US and China, for example, also here sustainability will have a big approach in the near or in the midterm future.
Right. Yeah. And specifically too, can you tell us about digitization in the supply chain and supply chain transparency? How does that all fit in? How does it work? And what are the goals really that we're trying to achieve with that?
Yeah, I would like to start here with the end consumers. What we could, what we have seen over the past 6 months due to the pandemic situation, and the people were at home a lot. Myself, for example, I'm in the so-called home office situation most of the time. So they are at home, they are ordering online. So digitization is the order of the day. It must work, like now with this panel as well. I think the last 6 months that people have used the time to really come up with their own digitization situation at home. So the fashion industry is kind of forced to think and act more digitally than ever before. If they're not part of the journey right now, they have to. If they want to, if they don't want to, there's no choice in the meantime. So there's also the example of fashion designers. They're presenting their latest collection in the meantime via live stream, for example. Retailers are switching to online and guaranteeing a more or less, or hopefully an appealing customer journey with smart technologies combining the physically presence and the online presence in a way. So we can see, or what I can see in my personal understanding, is that there is a better link or a clearer link between the B2C world and the B2B world. And the COVID-19 pandemic situation was kind of a catalyst. So when we think of trade shows, we think we will have, for example, fewer participants in the future, but those who attend will make business even as much as before, or maybe even more intense. So this is also where we have to measure ourselves a little bit differently. And what we want to do is that if people are visiting a trade show, there's a physical presence, but we also need to come up with digital solutions that people from all over the world have a better chance to attend these events also online in the future. So this is something which will go hand in hand, and we've already started that this summer with our so-called Neonyt on Air, which was held only online. And in January 2021, we tried to combine the physical world and the digital world. And one of the techniques I can already see, which is helping a lot here, is the blockchain technology, which can ensure transparency and traceability within the supply chains.
Right. Yeah, great. So how will we measure progress, and how will we meet our goals?
Well, I think every company needs to come up a little bit on its own, what kind of measurements they will have. But what I can see and what we are focusing a lot at the moment is the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, because they're kind of easy to understand, kind of easy to adapt, to get connected with. And so we can see that the different goals like less water consumption, less energy consumption, but also fight for less poverty, for example, is very clear in terms of understanding. So the people, no matter if it's B2B or B2C, are getting the connection with them. So this for us, for me personally, is a first starting point to get connected with them and trying to.
Right. Yeah. Great. So how will we measure progress, and how will we meet our goals?
Well, I think every company needs to come up a little bit on its own, what kind of measurements they will have. But what I can see and what we are focusing a lot at the moment is the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, because they're kind of easy to understand, kind of easy to adapt, to get connected with. And so we can see that the different goals like less water consumption, less energy consumption, but also fight for less poverty, for example, is very clear in terms of understanding. So the people, no matter if it's B2B or B2C, are getting the connection with them. So this for us, for me personally, is a first starting point to get connected with them and trying to set up internal processes which will help to aim for these goals, for example. And we as Messe Frankfurt are collaborating with the United Nations within our so-called Texpertise network. You can see it on the chart here, which our Texpertise network means, with the more than 60 textile-related shows all over the world. So what we want to do within the next 3 years is to make sure that every single trade show is connected with the Sustainable Development Goals, and that every exhibitor and every visitor is getting a better understanding of how to get in touch with them, how to work with them, how to play with them. And so this is for us super important. And if you then dive a little bit deeper into the idea of measurements, of course, certificates will help a lot, and we're really happy to work together very closely with OEKO-TEX, with the OEKO-TEX 100 standard, for example, or with the new initiative of Made in Green, because this is also something where the KPIs can really be linked with.
Right, great. So how long do you think it will take for the industry to meet standards and of transparency more globally?
I would be happy to say 1 year, but in fact, it's a never-ending process, I would say. The thing is, what I oversee is that 5 years ago, we had a different understanding of what sustainability in the fashion and textile industry means. Nowadays, the definition is differently, and even in 2 years and 5 years, it will be different again, because it is an ongoing process. What we can see is that the definition of sustainability is becoming a little bit more clear. We can see major companies stressing the need to build more sustainability within their internal processes. At the end of August, for example, during the so-called Water Week, 21 major fashion companies signed an open letter, like H&M, Burberry, PVH, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, you name it. And one aim is to ensure that the COVID pandemic helps spread up the transformation of the sector, that that people care more for the environment than ever before, and that we can see the connection between COVID and the poor planetary health in a way, to use these like drastic words. And when I look specifically on Germany, for example, the German Federal Minister for Economic Development, he's setting up basic labor and human rights standards within the supply chains with a new initiative called Green Button, der grüne Knopf. And this is also something where COVID, I would say, was really a catalyst here.
Yeah, so there's a silver lining, right? What, how will demand for sustainable clothes develop globally? How are we going to build?
I must admit that from my point of view, sustainable fashion is still a niche, but it's a very fast-growing niche, and a lot of smart people and smart companies tell us that it's a niche which will grow within the next year double digits. There are many positive signs. For example, survey shows that retailers are focusing on storytelling around sustainability. So I can see also a big chance for retailers coming up with the idea of sustainability, telling this to their customers, that they can meet their requirements in a way, because at the end it's a chicken egg idea of who is asking first, the consumer, or who is bringing in it first, the retailer. So I would always try to recommend the retailers that they should be first, that they should be the chicken maybe. And there's also so many other signs, like according to Google, over 90 days in the first half of 2020, the search for how to live a sustainable lifestyle increased by more than 4,550%. So the people are really taking care, the end consumers, the buyers are really taking care more of how to be more sustainable. And also OEKO-TEX did the survey like 2-3 years ago, showing that 70% of the end consumers they've asked, more than 15,000 people, are checking for sustainable choices when they are buying, no matter if it's fashion goods or accessories or whatsoever, you name it. So we can see a lot of positive signs, and I personally believe a lot in that.
That's great. Yeah, I being in the communications aspects, I see a lot of brands hesitant to tell their sustainability story. So what advice do you have for them as we move forward through this? How can brands get started on their journey, and also on their sustainability journey, but also in communicating it?
Yeah, I mean, Jackie, you just named it. It's telling the story. So the brand story and the transparency on the brand story is key, absolutely. So use social media channels, bring the end consumers the idea of how sustainable you are, get in touch with them, tell them what you are doing in Morocco, in Portugal, in Bangladesh, where you are producing, support initiatives like the Fashion Revolution campaign, for example, Who Made My Clothes. Tell the end consumers the story, who is in charge of producing the goods. This is like the first advice, and then the second advice, but even a little bit more important to myself, or for myself, is still stick to design, stick to style, stick to aesthetics, because we're still facing kind of a problem that a lot of sustainable fashion is not really fashionable, but it's more like apparel. So what we need is fashion brands and fashion designers who really work, or who really love the idea of creating fashion, but with a sustainable approach. And if you connect these two things, fashion and sustainability, I'm pretty sure that you will have a lot of success in the future. And it's of course work in progress. Maybe you will never be able to reach 100%, but just start with 10%, then the next year 20%, then 30%. So it's a journey, and you can even get in touch with your consumers or with the retailers that you are on a journey. Tell them the truth. Tell them that you are not on 100% already, that you are with 50%, but that you are aiming for a higher goal, for a higher standard within the next months or the next years. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will like that a lot, and will stick to your brand. That's my main point here.
I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much, Thimo, for all of your insights and sharing with us today. Hopefully we'll have questions for you at the end, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Annika Sauerhöfer from OEKO-TEX, who is going to talk to us about OEKO-TEX and how it works, how it helps brands become more sustainable, be accountable for the sustainability. Annika, I'll hand it over to you if you would tell us a little bit about yourself and OEKO-TEX to start.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much, Jackie. I'm happy to be here today. As you said, I am the product manager for Made in Green at OEKO-TEX, and in this role I am responsible for the development of the standard and rules, always in very close cooperation with our aiding testing institutes. I have a background in textiles. I studied textile management at the University of Reutlingen in Germany, and before joining OEKO-TEX I worked for 4 years for a sustainable textile or a jeans startup, where I headed the operations, including the sourcing of the fabrics and also the collection management. But after having worked for some years in the industry, I decided to switch sides because I wanted to help other textile companies as well on their way to more sustainability. And this is why I'm here today at OEKO-TEX.
Great. So you have some slides to bring us through, or?
Yes, exactly. Here they are. Before, as you said, before going into detail what Made in Green stands for, I would shortly like to talk about the industry environment in general. And as Thimo mentioned, the fashion industry is very global and it is also very fragmented. There are thousands of actors involved in the supply chain. To give you a number, a total of 75 million people work along the textile value chain. That's really a lot, and it is also one of the most complex production networks. This means that there is simply not a standard path for the cotton produced in one country, then spun in the other, dyed and processed in the next, and finally made up into a garment into the fifth country. This makes it difficult for brands and retailers to really have an overview over the whole supply chain, especially since manufacturing and supplier facilities are mostly not owned by brands, and some production steps are even subcontracted. So this all makes it really challenging to truly gain an understanding of what the critical sustainability issues are if you do not know where the different steps take place. So transparency and traceability is the first step towards sustainability, because you need to know your direct and indirect suppliers to be able to monitor the social issues the textile industry is facing, from the working conditions, the safety at workplace, and so many more topics. You also need to know your direct and indirect suppliers to analyze the environmental performance in order to be able to start to improve it. And all these issues, they can only be tackled if the supply chain is transparent and the processes within one manufacturing facility are transparent as well. And what is good is that the industry has realized that this is a major challenge to handle, which you can see here on the slide. McKinsey, they conducted a survey in 2019 where 56% of the chief purchasing officers of big apparel and also footwear companies said that transparency and sustainability are the #1 priority to handle. So brands already started to publicly disclose information on suppliers, which is really a great and important step. However, they are mostly only focused on tier 1 suppliers, which is within direct supplier relationships. And we believe it must go beyond that to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 to get a holistic approach of transparency. Here you can see another interesting finding of the survey. 65% of the surveyed sourcing executives expect to achieve transparency at the point of sale through full supply chain traceability from fiber to store by 2025. So this is really one major topic, and there is still much to do until this is achieved. Then obviously there are also challenges that consumers face. As Thimo said, people are thinking more about their consumer behavior since the COVID-19 crisis. Consumers increasingly want to make informed decisions. They want to know where their clothes were made, who made them, if they were made under safe and fair working conditions. We just heard about the Rana Plaza catastrophe and that it was kind of a turning point in public awareness regarding transparency of global supply chains. People expect from brands to ensure that workers are safe in the facilities, that there is a working fire protection plan, and so many other things, so that tragedies like the Rana Plaza will never happen again. And of course, what is also important to consumers is that they want to wear safe products that do not harm the body. That does not only account for clothing, but also for the sheets you sleep in, to everything that comes into contact with the skin. Parents, they want to be sure that their babies and toddlers wear products that do not contain chemicals that could cause skin irritation, for instance. And with all these questions in mind, they want to take a closer look at brands and the products they offer. And this is possible through transparency and also transparent communication. And yeah, if this is done, it helps greatly to build trust in brands. So yeah, everything starts here with transparency as well.
So from transparency, how do consumers, I mean, how do the suppliers trace their supply chain?
So transparency has been a major topic for OEKO-TEX since a long time. We have 25 years of experience in the textile industry, and it has always been important to us to play a leading role in promoting sustainability in the textile industry. And therefore, as a certifier back in 2015, we wanted to make this huge topic of transparency visible and also kind of tangible to end consumers and suppliers. And that is why the Made in Green label was developed in this year. And here you can see the result. And one big result of the label creation is that all products that are labeled with Made in Green have a traceable supply chain. And I will show you later on in detail what that means. And in addition to that, the label also verifies that an article has been tested for harmful substances, so that it's really safe to use. Then it also guarantees that the textile or also leather product has been manufactured in environmentally friendly facilities under socially responsible and safe working conditions.
Right. So from there, it's critical. We understand that mapping is critical to the process. What about how does the traceability aspect of it work?
Every Made in Green label has an individual product ID. So with this ID, as you can see here on the left-hand slide on the hang tag, the product-specific supply chain can be traced, so that end consumers and of course other stakeholders, they can follow what is happening, where the different production steps took place, and which companies were involved in producing the specific garment, leather, or home textile, let's say. As just said, the ID can always be found on the hang tag or on the woven label of a product that is labeled with Made in Green. And the easiest way then for consumers or also other stakeholders to see the supply chain behind an article is to scan the QR code. And after scanning, you will automatically be redirected to the OEKO-TEX label check where the supply chain is visible. If there is no QR code, especially maybe on a woven label, where the quality is not that high as on the hang tag, the consumer can go to the OEKO-TEX label check on oekotex.com and enter the product ID manually. And to give you a better idea of how this looks like in the end, I brought an example of a label from Chiemsee with me. Yes, this is the right slide. Here you can see a Made in Green hang tag for a Chiemsee t-shirt. So imagine a consumer walks into a Chiemsee store and is interested in the Made in Green label t-shirt. He will find the hang tag attached to that t-shirt. And as just said, he can then scan the QR code with his mobile phone, and he will be automatically redirected to the OEKO-TEX label check. And in the OEKO-TEX label check, the customer will see that the product ID is traceable. This means that the product complies with the Made in Green criteria I just mentioned before. Then when scrolling down, you will also see some article information. For instance, as you can see here, the name of the product, a description and the colors in which the t-shirt is offered, and also information on the label owner, which is Chiemsee in this case. And when scrolling down further, the supply chain of the specific product is displayed in the world map. So the customer can see at a glance which production facilities are part of the supply chain, in which country they are located, and which production steps are done within the specific facility. For instance, here you could click on the brand icon and see that the label owner is Chiemsee. Or you could also zoom in, as you can see here in the second screenshot, and see more detailed information, because the icons here are clickable as well. So the traceable supply chain is really the heart of Made in Green, as it shows the complex journey of a product in a very easy way. And yeah, we therefore constantly develop the label check further to offer more and more information. So for us, it's really a journey as well.
That was great. Thank you so much, Annika. It was really informative. Next, we have with us Michael Möller from Hohenstein, who's going to tell you more about Made in Green. Hohenstein is one of the 18 founding members of OEKO-TEX. He can tell you more also, and he's going to tell you about Made in Green and the step process that helps companies get to Made in Green. So thank you, Michael. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself first and Hohenstein, that would be great.
Thank you, Jackie. Thanks a lot. So hello, I'm Michael. My background, I'm economical engineer for chemistry, while I focused on sustainability management during my studies. I'm with Hohenstein since over 6 years already, and nowadays I'm responsible for audits and certification within the Hohenstein group. And Hohenstein itself, it's a family-owned company founded over 70 years ago, with the focus on textiles. So we are experts in textiles. We do testing, certification, research, education, everything about textiles. Our headquarters is located in Germany. In total, we have already over 1,100 employees already in over 40 countries. And we have laboratories beside our big lab in Germany. We have a laboratory in India, in Hong Kong, and in Bangladesh as well. So what's the link between OEKO-TEX and Hohenstein? Over 25 years ago, Hohenstein was one of the founding members of the OEKO-TEX Association. And yeah, within, you can say that the OEKO-TEX is the owner of the OEKO-TEX standards, or the standard holder, while Hohenstein is doing the verification of the compliance in our laboratories or on the ground with audits. Yeah, exactly. So that was about myself. Now I would like to focus on Made in Green, and Annika already explained that Made in Green is a label for sustainable textiles. My part now is a bit more technical to explain how it can be achieved actually. So how the process works, what's actually behind it, behind the promise Annika already told you. So, and therefore I brought some slides. My first slides is about the requirements and criteria for Made in Green. So which criteria must be fulfilled to get a Made in Green label? And first of all, the end product must be certified with the standard 100 by OEKO-TEX or the letter standard by OEKO-TEX. This certification system verifies that the product has been tested for harmful substances. And through this part of the requirements, we made sure that the product is safe to use actually for the end consumer. And to ensure that during the production process itself, sustainability requirements are fulfilled, step certifications are needed. So for the involved making up facilities and for all wet processing facilities or chemical use facilities, a step certification is needed. STEP stands for Sustainable Textile and Leather Production, and has ambitious requirements in regards to environmental performance as well as safe and social responsible workplaces. So maybe can we go one slide back again? So as a conclusion, the combination of the standard 100 and the letter certificate and STEP certificates brings you to Made in Green. So as soon as you fulfill these criteria, a Made in Green label can easily be created within an online dashboard. But what I want to point out here again, which is really important to understand, that the standard 100 certificate is needed once for the textile end product, while as it verifies the textile that the textile product is not human toxic, while there are several step standards can be involved within the supply chain. So several step standards for the different production facilities can be needed. So, and as the standard 100 is actually the most spreaded textile standard in the world, this normally isn't a problem for achieving a Made in Green level, but the main challenge normally is to achieve the STEP certificates for the different production facilities of the supply chain. And therefore, I want to focus with my next slide a little bit on the STEP and its content. So what's STEP? As I said before, STEP is a certification system for textile production facilities, especially tailored for the requirement of the textile industry. It has a modular structure with 6 different modules. You can see them on the slide. And the idea is that all relevant sustainability aspects are captured using the 6 modules. So as a main difference to other certification systems, we do not only focus on one sustainability area, but have a really holistic sustainability approach. So going roughly through the 6 modules, the chemical management module is about good housekeeping of chemicals. It includes requirements for a chemical inventory or banning of hazardous chemicals. The environmental performance module deals with the consumption of resources, the avoidance of waste, and requirements related to wastewater or, for example, air emissions. Health and safety is about the workplace conditions, as well as the safety of the facility and the safety of the workers and the prevention of accidents. The module social responsibility focus on the employees and their working conditions. The 8 core principles of the ILO are included, as well as the UN Charter for Human Rights. Then we have the environmental management module, and there, for example, documented production processes are required, activities to achieve the environmental goals and the implementation of a continuous improvement process. And last but not least, we have the quality management module, which is based on the ISO 9001 and existing management system is required. So this is really roughly the content about STEP, and in general, all these content is included in a really comprehensive assessment tool, a self-assessment tool, which need to be filled by the facility itself, as they have all their knowledge about the facilities. And after this assessment is answered, it will be reviewed by our technical experts by desktop review, and afterwards the data and information provided are also verified on site in the facilities through OEKO-TEX approved STEP auditors. As a result, the facility will receive a report. It's approximately about 80 pages, and there the sustainability performance is included in total for every module, and also obligations, recommendations are included so that the continuous improvement process of the facility can be triggered. So this was only a short, really one slide short introduction about STEP. And I really would love to go more into detail, but this is obviously not possible due to the given time. So if there's any more questions or interest, please get in touch with me get in touch with OEKO-TEX or the other OEKO-TEX institutes. They will probably help you. Yes, and now I want to focus again on Made in Green and how it can be actually achieved in our system. So if the Made in Green criteria are fulfilled, remember a standard 100 certificate for the product as well as step certifications for the relevant production facilities. A Made in Green label can be easily created by using our My OEKO-TEX online dashboard. And therefore the following 5 steps needs to be done. First of all, you need to register on our database. And I guess it's really interesting for the audience to hear that Made in Green is free of charge. Of course, you need to pay for the standard 100 or the step certificate, but Made in Green itself, it's a free of charge. And yes, in the second step, you connect with your supply chain. So the suppliers can be found by their name, by their address, or by entering one of the existing OEKO-TEX certificate numbers. The invited suppliers need to confirm your invitation as proof that there's really a business relationship between you and the supplier. In the third step, the specific Made in Green product is defined, which should be labeled with a Made in Green. So therefore, the product details need to be entered, like the product name, the product components, a product picture. And this is actually the basis for you to get a specific Made in Green label number. And after the product is defined, the Made in Green label can be created and you get a unique Made in Green label number. And our system automatically checks if the Made in Green criteria are fulfilled. So, and finally, in the last step, the Made in Green label can be placed on a product. And the label can be directly downloaded from our system in different label templates, like a mini label, like a hang text. There's other labels, templates are possible. There's also different formats available, and there's a lot of languages included for in which you can get your label. So and now with my next slide, I want to give you a little bit more impression how a supply chain in our system could look like. And so you can see this is an example supply chain. You can see that there's a lot of different players are involved in the chain, and the different icons indicate the different production processes of a supplier. So if it's a making up facility, a wet processing facility, or a vertical integrated facility, and also already existing OEKO-TEX certificates are included. I truly see that this is really difficult to see on this slide, but in the system it can be seen way better, zoomed in, and it's also possible to list the whole supply chain to have the supply chain in a listed format. So, and now if you have a specific supply chain for a Made in Green label, exactly, yeah, for a Made in Green label, a specific supply chain is chosen, so the highlighted facilities are involved in the production of this piece-dyed t-shirt, and yeah, these suppliers, the highlighted suppliers, are the ones which will be shown on the map when the end consumer is scanning the QR code. So that also means as soon as the supply chain changes, a new Made in Green number is needed. So my next slide is already my last slide, and now I want to go back to the marketing part again, as I had a lot of technical and yeah, really more technical information, I guess. I wanted to close with something more positive. So what I really love about Made in Green is that it brings a really clear communication to the end consumer, and it takes this, let me say, really complex material of sustainability, and it breaks it down to 3 basic messages. So the product labeled is made with materials tested for harmful substances, made in environmental friendly facilities, and made in social responsible workplaces. And additionally, there's also this transparency of the supply chain. And I guess this is already a perfect transaction for our next speaker, Andreas from Chiemsee, who went through the whole process.
First, if you don't mind, a question. Can you tell us a little bit about how the continuous improvement is built into the certification process? I know it's an evolving industry, so just a little bit there, maybe?
Yeah. The continuous improvement process, yes. So as I maybe said a little bit already, STEP has a scoring system included, so the companies get a clear picture what's their status quo and about their current sustainability performance. And yes, they also get recommendations and obligations how to improve, and with their next audit cycle, they can compare their last performance and their current performance, and so the continuous improvement process is triggered. Yes. And,
so one more thing before we, sorry.
Yeah. So in total, I would say that sustainability can be seen as journey, and yeah, perfection actually can never be reached. But all in all, we want to trigger the continuous improvement process with our program.
What do you hear from brands before we go over to Andreas, if you don't mind, who is a brand, who represents a brand rather? What do you hear from brands about what the Made in Green process or system means to them?
Maybe first of all, I would like to answer this question. I would like to turn it a little bit around, if you don't mind. So the question of if you as an end consumer want to buy a sustainable textile, how do you do this? And this question is actually not really easy to answer. And yeah, Made in Green is a possible or a solution to this idea to allow the customer to make a conscious purchasing decision. And if you're coming back now to the brand, it is a possibility for a brand to show their already achieved sustainability goals and their efforts. There's a lot of brands outside who already do a lot and are best practice in, or do a lot in sustainability, but it is really hard to communicate it to the point of sale. And this is one of the main aspects of Made in Green.
Right, right. It's great for the brand. So thank you, Michael, very much for that. And now we have with us Andreas Bothe from Chiemsee and the Schmidt Group, who is going to tell us about the Made in Green process for them, why your great brand is involved with Made in Green, what it's meant to you. And if you wouldn't mind just explaining who you are and a little bit more about the Schmidt Group and Chiemsee and Bay City.
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much, Jackie, and hello everybody outside. Many thanks for your invitation, being a panelist on this webcast about the Made in Green as the verified label of the OEKO-TEX Association. For our brands, Chiemsee, and our private label company, Bay City as well, I'm responsible for all social compliance and sustainability activities of our products. As this is really a huge challenge nowadays, as we just heard before of the speakers, this cannot be managed without a strong team. And besides our organization here in Germany, we have a CSR team in Asia, mainly based in Bangladesh and China, who's covering the Asian region to support our supplier network along our common way. So best regards to everybody out there maybe watching this webcast. Myself, I started my profession as a men's tailor for more than over 30 years. So having a degree as a clothing engineer mid of the 90s, I'm being in this business really from the ground and working in different international acting companies up to my position right now. So I think I have a little bit of background about the challenges and difficulties with about the transparency. So really in the beginning at Chiemsee, for example, and Bay City as well, we have started with a very small team and great self-motivation to make really a change. My colleagues, especially here from the sales department, thoughts always, I was somebody who stopped the business coming up with lots of new requirements, but now I'm seen as someone who really makes the future business possible. Sustainability is really commitment and is a door opener now as well.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us why Chiemsee is so focused on sustainability.
Well, Chiemsee fashion is really lives from the enthusiasm of beach and winter sports, such as windsurfing and skiing. And with a philosophy to unite sports and fashion, what makes us stand out from other brands is our authenticity and credibility. And to underline our sustainability strategy, we focused on strong partners like OEKO-TEX, as we have been with OEKO-TEX since almost 10 years and holding all the necessary certificates for all the various product suites like woven, circular, and flat knit articles. It already gave us really a trust and confidence in our supply chain. So we are really driven from the customer, aligned with our self-imagine of sustainability. That's why we are on the way on our so-called roadmap to be more sustainable in future. And our goal is really that customer goes into the shop or ordering online, looking for products which are labeled made in green, that they get the trust and confidence of our hopefully very fashionable items.
Yeah, I imagine your customers are really into the environment, given that they're so athletic in a sports way, right, in the environment. So why did you choose Made in Green rather than a different certification label?
Well, because the Made in Green has the really holistic approach, as we just have seen. The traceability is a very major topic. It makes also a difference because other labels rather focusing on environmental or social worker issues. But Made in Green really covers both. So from my point of view, it is the consistent further development of the OEKO-TEX idea itself.
What do you hear from your customers about your Made in Green commitment? Do you hear from them? Well,
from our customers, we get different reactions. Actually, we have customers who really want us to have more Made in Green products in our collection, and then we have also smaller customers who really want us to use the Made in Green products from Chiemsee to expand their own range of sustainable products in the shops. So even smaller customers are looking for sustainable products nowadays.
Do you see a Made in Green influence on your business?
We hope our contribution will be appreciated and will help also to raise the awareness of sustainability. And of course, it increased the sale, or should increase the sale of our sustainable products and the raise of sustainable products in the market. Well, Thimo just mentioned earlier that the German government is strongly going into the direction of planning a national supply chain act. He explained a little bit about before. But Made in Green helps us to get us here a lot because we as Chiemsee and Bay City are just recently been certified as the member of a part of the Green Button initiatives from the state government. So we work very closely with our pool of SEP certified partners to fulfill this commitment, as we did our part, and the factories with a SEP certified background also took their part to have a really sustainable product, really in a sustainable field of production.
Yeah, so great. So tell us what you learned through the process of going through Made in Green. What do you wish you knew then when you started that you now know? Any information you can share with people who are going to go through the process as Chiemsee did?
Yeah, so as Michael explained the process, and I really have to admit the preparation, especially the assessment tool, is very tough to achieve. So we have to really need to have a good team at the factory, first of all, to get through the assessment of all the 6 areas he mentioned. And in our case, we are very lucky to have a very good professional team within our organization in Bangladesh and China as well, which is very close related also to the OEKO-TEX team on the ground. So the STEP certification really ensures an international comparability of companies' performances actually. So it definitely will give a very competitive advantage also from the factory's point of view in future.
Yeah, so great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Andreas. And if everybody can come back, I have one final question for the group that I was hoping you could all answer, and then we'll take questions in our last few minutes from the audience, which I see are popping up. So if you have a question, type it in now, please, if you don't mind, audience. And so, Michael, great. And is Thimo with us? I don't see Thimo, but okay, here's the question. Oh, here it is.
Hi.
So one question for the group is, what is the next big topic after supply chain transparency and traceability for the textile industry in regard to sustainability? So like, what's next? What are we looking at? What do you guys want to hear about, talk about?
I would like to start here maybe because I want to claim a field with is not really linked with the other industry experts here, as I'm more from the marketing and communication part. I would say that one of the trending topics should be brand awareness, should be the clear focus on a sustainable brand, communicating that to the audience, to the retailers, to the consumers, to make sure that the storytelling is part of the whole brand experience. And if this happens, I think the sustainable fashion brands will be on the rise and will have success in the future. This is something which should not be forgotten when it's about all the other aspects of how to make the product more sustainable, or how to go deeper into the supply chain, for example. So brand awareness is one trending topic for me.
Yeah, right. You have to be able to talk about it. I got you. What about you, Annika?
Well, since we talked so much about transparency, for us at OEKO-TEX, transparency also means to inspect the different production processes regarding their environmental impact and assess where improvements can be done. And one big issue where we see the need for action is that the textile industry is responsible for around 10% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than the air and sea transport combined. And this is why we will soon be offering a solution for STEP customers to calculate their carbon and water footprint. And in this way, we want to support textile and leather producers in contributing to more environmentally friendly processes, and to counteract on the climate change. And at the same time, we also would like to address the end consumer, because we think that reduction of the personal CO2 footprint of consumers will play a major role in future purchasing decisions. And this means for Made in Green that a future goal is to display the environmental impact of a product in the OEKO-TEX label check. Yeah, that's our next big thing.
Yeah, great. Michael, what do you see? What are you thinking about?
What's next in sustainability? I would say that a lot of issues have been already raised during this call, and I would state that first of all, the most important thing is to get everyone on board. There's so many ideas and tools already out there, but we need to get everyone involved actually, and this is not, at the end, it should be nothing special to have this sustainable achievements in place we already talked about today. So that would be my main message, to say, okay, we need to get the whole industry to a higher level or to a standard level in sustainability. So now to answer your question, what's next? Actually, I guess that huge topics will be the circularity and digitalization of the industry. Yeah, within OEKO-TEX we are working already on both, but I think these are the main future topics.
Yeah, great, agreed. Thank you. And Andreas, what do you see?
Well, for us, actually, your ideas or your foreseen is very well noted, and for us at Chiemsee, be sure there's more to come, even in communication, which Thimo mentioned. We're doing something which we're just having under preparation. But for us as Chiemsee, as the brand, working very closely with our partners, really our next big thing is really to establish the whole supply chain through all the tier areas, as we need to continue our sustainable roadmap more in detail. Working with the STEP certified partners helps us a lot for the future to set up an environmental production under very safe labor conditions. And this is what we want. It's not just the product, it's also the production. There are people involved in this, which we want to cover as well.
Yeah, thank you. So it turns out we have received a lot of questions from all of you, so thank you so much. We're going to send you a post-webinar email with answers to all of your questions, so everybody can see all the questions and all the answers. But I have two here that I just wanted to say before we go, if everybody has a few more minutes. One is for Michael Möller. The STEP certification is mandatory for all wet process facilities. Does that mean printing facility? And is it also mandatory to have STEP? It's very specific.
It's a clear answer. It's a yes. So if you want to achieve a Made in Green label within your supply chain, the wet processing facility need to have a STEP certificate.
Okay. And then one for Annika. Again, we're gonna have you'll get all the questions and answers, but just one more for Annika. Can you tell me the difference between OEKO-TEX and the Eco-Passport with an example?
Yes, so OEKO-TEX is the umbrella brand. We have different certifications and labels. For instance, we talked about Standard 100, then STEP, and also Made in Green. And Eco-Passport is another certification of OEKO-TEX, and it's an independent certification for chemicals, for colorants, and accessories used in the manufacturing of textile and leather articles. So what we do is we check that each individual substance in the chemical product meets the requirements, the statutory requirements, and that it is not harmful to human health.
Yeah, great. So thank you all. This was really informative. I hope everybody in the audience also agrees, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again in future webinars. And just send us your questions and we'll keep answering them and keep communicating. So thank you all to our guests and our audience. Really grateful. Had a great time.
Thanks a lot, Jackie.
Thank you very
all.
much to all of you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.